Hey everyone, Noodle here. Today I want to share my building process with you, specifically focusing on offsets, half walls, corner walls, and generally making our structure more interesting and dynamic. The idea for this video came from your requests on my Fort Fortress demo. So many of you asked that I make the actual follow-along tutorial for a similar fort build that I had to do it. This tutorial is short and sweet, but up on Patreon there's a full-length version of this build, and that includes everything that I recorded and the full walkthrough of the completed and decorated build. These long recordings are available for all members of the Mutant Hound tier and up. Remember that you can access any tier content on a 7-day free trial, so there's no reason not to swing by and check it out. Today, we'll build this together. And at the end, I will share some decorating tips with you as well. Today, I will show you how to create half levels, unusual height levels, how to add walls to cover these basic floor tiles, how to use our catwalks for both merging and actually catwalking, and I will also demo my actual creation process. I'll even show you how to get around not having porch building tiles and still setting up a terrace. So if you're ready to build, let's go. As per your requests, I am doing this demo in the same exact spot as I did the original Fort Fortress build. I will create a similar structure, but a bit improved, as I learned much about what I liked and didn't like the first time around. Always start with your main structure placement. I found that this rock right here is kind of the perfect length for a floor tile and is perfectly flat. That gives me an interesting place to start. I imagine I can trail a terrace off a platform naturally into this rock formation, already making my build unique. Keeping the snapping option on, I will just continue this line of floor tiles to the left. I haven't decided yet if I want these to be concrete or wood yet. Fortunately, we don't need to decide at all. Should we choose to change the floor tile style? We don't have to take away the current ones to build new ones, we can just replace that tile. That's very handy. As you follow these steps with me, you will quickly run into the same issue as I always do: terrain. Everything in Appalachia is on an incline. That's why you see so many camps hovering out there. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let your camp hover. Instead, I will show you how to stair-step our floors and terraces. One of my favorite methods to start raising the floor level by half a floor is using a half wall offset method. Here on the corner of our walkway, set up a half wall, and then another one, making a corner. These can be any type of walls, it doesn't matter. Just like with the floors, you can always replace the style later without removing the item. Now that you have your half wall, grab a floor tile and line it up as perfectly as you can, lining it up with the top of the walls. We want it to be really snug and even. This part is a bit tedious. It takes patience and precision. There's no snapping here. We need to use tiny gentle adjustments to get things to line up just right. Once that's done, we can use snapping again and continue this line of floors to the right. If you get all the way to the far right and discover that there's a gap, or you can no longer snap tiles together or some other weirdness, that means that your original tile is not perfectly lined up. Go back and tweak it some more. You'll see in the full video that it took me quite a few minutes. This is what we want to get to at the end of this step. Now we can follow our floor tiles here and just snap more half walls to them all the way from left to right. That looks so much better than all that exposed wooden mesh, doesn't it? And I find that I like the wood floor look more attractive than the cement or concrete or stone or whatever it is. So I will switch these tiles to the wood look. The two next to the rock can remain concrete. That will create a smoother transition from wood to rock. But all these main ones, I want them to be wood. But then, tragedy! All the wood and mesh on the sides are exposed. Walls won't snap here because the tiles are buried halfway in the ground. So how can we arrive at this? This is one of my favorite tricks to do with catwalks. We're going to take these exposed sides of the sunken floor tiles and cover them with any style of wall, sinking that seamlessly into the ground. Grab a catwalk segment, any type of catwalk, it can be the ugly one from the shelter, and clip it to the edge of your floor tile. Now pick a wall that you like and proceed to attach a wall. You will find that you have your basic option to just clip a regular wall vertically to the side of the floor tile, but also straight down into the earth. Once you get that option, snatch it. Take away your catwalk and voila! And if you have more tiles to work with, don't actually scrap or store the catwalk segment. Simply move it over to the next segment and proceed to cover this entire stretch of exposed floor tiles until you get to this look. Then take your catwalk away. Pretty neat, right? Now we get to play architect. This is the stage where I like to decide how big my house will actually be. Usually, that depends on how rich in materials I am, how much time I have, and how much time I want to spend on decorating. The first thing I like to do is extend the floor base, and then I decide on the size of the main room of the main house. These two levels that I've already built are just the terrace levels to help elevate my house to suit the terrain. The actual house build starts now. I like to work with the base rectangle as my main room. And this is where you'll get to see me change my mind a million times, adjust and readjust things, as if trying on different outfits until I see something I like. As promised, I will keep this short and sweet though, and super edited for this version of the recording. But again, if you want to see every step of this madness and get a better feel for how long these things take, to see my actual real-time decision process, please watch the full recording over on Patreon. Please also consider that I buy these kits and building sets with my own money, or C.A.M.P's money sometimes, to make these reviews for you guys. And there are only so many things that I can afford with the atoms that I get from my Fallout First membership. I would love to do much more in terms of item reviews and builds, but for that, I will have to actually purchase more atoms with dollars. If you would like to help me out in that department, joining a Patreon tier is one way to do it. Another way is to drop me a direct super chat or super thanks with your exact demands. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of my personal finances for these builds and reviews, and that ain't much. So this here is the first level of my main structure. It's actually quite basic. I have a 3x2 rectangular room with these new corner steps from the Fort Fortress set going up to the top. If you don't have this stair set, worry not, use any other full floor level steps here, but not a ladder. Pick an actual attractive staircase. Speaking of steps, to avoid having to jump on my half wall level every time, I've taken away one of the half walls and added a concrete staircase here. This is a very friendly staircase that actually works on half levels. It just sinks into the ground through the floor. To extend my structure, I've added a few porch foundations to the right and to the left, and connected one of them to the main house with just 3 basic floating floors. This is my first floor. Let's make it a bit fancier and start building up level 2. For the second floor, I want to create an improved version of the loft space that I had in the original build. But as you will see, it will go through a few transformations along the way, which is actually really cool. I decided not to edit out much of my trial and error here, specifically so that you can see all the different ways that you can do this and get inspired for your own builds. Maybe you want a full-size bedroom, or maybe you want a cozy loft space with a slanted roof. It's all possible. The first thing to do is to add the floor and to send a staircase up there. The reason I like my ground floor to be 3x2 squares is because that's just the right size for any kind of staircase. I really like using these corner steps for the Fort Fortress set to take us from level 1 to level 2 even inside the house. I especially like using them to go between 2 full levels. I did also add a door and a balcony here in the original build, but I didn't actually like it. The mid step of the staircase doesn't line up with the half floor perfectly. Surprise, surprise. So you have to build up a weird custom height add-on on the other side. It's doable, but tedious. And if you don't do it perfectly right, you can't actually attach a door in this doorway. I solved that problem by snapping on a defense gate over the door. It's kind of a hack, so I decided not to go that route again in this nice clean build. After much playing around, taking things away, changing floors, swapping wall heights, I ended up with this basic shape for my second story. Now for the roof. Roofs are fun and can set a very specific style and feel to your house. I had the most difficult time settling on the roof here. Those of you over on Patreon will laugh at how many times I switched out the roof tiles and even switched out the walls and rebuilt the whole second floor to get this look. As always, work with what you have. You can always upgrade later. Even if you just have the basic rusty looking set, that's fine. I finally settled on these haunted house sides with the adorable small windows and a single tower piece from a totally different barn set. Complete style clash, but it happens to work here. And for the ridge of the roof, I went with 2 of these triangular rooftops, which brought everything together nicely to a point in the center. And that gave me a genius idea to replace the main center wall with 2 half walls and then to change the top one to glass. Love it. You may have noticed that at some point during the roof building process, a terrace patio appeared. Let me show you how I did that. This main front wall seemed too stark and naked, and I didn't want another half level here with a door like in the original build. So I decided to extend a porch from around the corner. But that seemed like too much porch. So what I did here is I used the pavilion walls with railing and the pavilion roof. If you have this set, give it a shot. I like to have a back porch in all my builds for workbenches or generators, you know, the ugly stuff. I like to keep that area realistic as well. It's kind of unprotected, so in real life I would fence it in so that people or ghouls or whatever can't just hop right in. I like using defenses for this. Most full height defenses fit just perfectly between these pillars and naturally merge. No glitch merging needed. My favorite style is this mesh. These will come around again if they haven't already. They're very popular in the Atomic Shop pre and around Halloween. The final thing that I like to do in a build before I start interior decorating is to set up everything that I will ever need structurally outside. In this case, it's the full perimeter wall. If you saw my Fort Fortress building set review, you already know how much I love these defense segments. I also like to set up a separate area for my doghouse. I use the Fetch Collectron, and he comes with a doghouse. Problem is, no matter where you put that thing, it hovers. So I started building these little gazebos for my mechanical pup. If there's space on the other side of the river, I will build a little cookout gazebo there as well. And finally, since I'm on a river, I will also play with my catwalks. These catwalks from the Fort Fortress set are absolutely amazing. They come with many segment lengths, corner pieces, and support beams. The only drawback that I've encountered with these so far is that they do not work with rock. Like, not at all. If they see a rock in the distance, they won't snap. And if the supports land on the rock, even barely grazing it, no go. That's a bit of a bummer, as most Appalachian terrain is quite rocky, especially around riverbanks. So I don't know what Bethesda was thinking here. I get it though, it's actually realistic. We can't sink wooden posts into rock in real life, but come on. We also can't carry 400 pounds of concrete seamlessly in our pockets while wearing invisible armor and backpacks under our t-shirts. So maybe some realism rules can be broken? Okay, well, just aim for the grass and plan your catwalk route accordingly. Finally, the build itself is done. This took me 2 weeks to make for you guys. One of my bigger builds for sure. I won't demo my decorating process, but I will give some decorating tips that made this build possible. 1. Use plants as much as possible. I set up trees and bushes outside to make my build look more immersive. I also used potted plants around my patio areas and gazebo structures. 2. Use symmetry and consistency. I didn't just set up every type of potted plant that I own, tempting though it was. I selected just one and use it repetitively all throughout. I especially like these planters on the gazebo style roof. 3. Use light as a design element. I once again made this whole ginormous structure without a generator. I used only oil lamps and lanterns and the round hanging lights that are now becoming my signature light in every build. Additionally, I've installed several fire merges all throughout, inside and out. If you haven't seen my fire merge video yet, check it out. 4. Keep the ugly stuff in the back. I wanted this camp to be a beautiful showpiece that's good enough to be on the cover of Better Homes and Gardens. But I also wanted it to be a functional and useful camp. That means weapons workbench, armor workbench, stash box, scrap box, ammo box. No thanks. That would be more like Better Homes and Garbage. So I built a whole back area with the unsightly maintenance stuff. And finally, 5. Pick a theme or a combination of themes. I went with an immersive country fort that's also a home to a Mothman fan. So there you have it, boys and girls, a fun step-by-step build just for you. Remember that the full build recording as well as the full decorated house walkthrough are up on Patreon should you want to see more detail and maybe copy this thing exactly. Please consider helping me finance the next big project like this. You can do so via Super Thanks, by becoming a channel member, or simply by shopping in our store. Check out my latest Mothman Moon design while you're there. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Noodle Pants, one half of Gamer Aviator. And until next time, stay safe out there, Vault Dwellers.
In the heart of West Virginia, where the shadows creep and sway, lies a land of rusted dreams, where the brave dare not stray. Appalachia, oh, it's a treacherous ride, with dangers untold and no